America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon, Howse.
And welcome. Glad you're with us today. We're going to be joined by Dr. Andy Woods and Patrick Wood. The Woods, plural, two Woods. One Patrick and one Andy. We're going to talk.
Relation.
No relation. One has an S on the end of his name. The other does not. Wow. I almost feel like we should play taps. Because I think the MAGA movement is dead. I think it's gone. Don't you guys? I really do. I think we have to have a solemn moment. MAGA is dead. Here we have today a shocking announcement. Shocking. I mean, what is wrong with us? This is the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, with his Qatari counterpart. Let's listen to this.
We also value the close cooperation between Doha and Washington that led to the signing of the Gaza peace plan on October 8th. This historic achievement underscores what can be accomplished when our nations work together with courage and trust, amongst other partners such as Egypt and Turkey.
Let's trust Turkey. Wrong-o. I mean, listen to the lies coming out of this man's mouth. Apparently, Pete doesn't know as much about Islam as we thought he did. He doesn't apparently know what taqiyya means. Can we count the lies?
We also value the close cooperation between Doha and Washington that led to the signing of the Gaza peace plan.
Okay, well, the close relationship that led to the signing. Or was it the fact that we have people in our government that are awash in Qatari and Arab money? Has anyone, again, in the conservative world had the courage to go look up the 666 building of Jared Kushner in New York and who bailed him out to the tune of billions of dollars? Are we aware of the golf course and the hotel by the Trump boys in Qatar? Isn't that in the press? Can't you go find that? Sure we can. If the Bidens were doing this, Sean Hannity and all of these other puppets of the Uniparty would be screaming and hollering because they want to make sure that there's enough division between the right and the left. I'm upset because I know that this is how you destroy a country. Islam is running over top of this country and nothing's being done. You very rarely ever hear. When is the last time you heard them hold a symposium or a briefing on Islam? We had one on Antifa. That's the Marxist. We can't talk about Islam. Now that's the enemy that nobody wants to talk about. In fact, we'll do deals and bring over their pilots to train them.
On October 8th. This historic achievement underscores what can be accomplished when our nations work together with courage and trust, amongst other partners such as Egypt and Turkey.
Yeah, because it's a real smart thing to work together and trust the people funding Hamas, Qatar.
We further welcome today's signing of the letter of acceptance establishing a Qatari Emir Air Force facility and Mountain Home Air Base in Idaho.
That's right. You heard that right, folks. Air Force base in Idaho will be used for training Qatari Islamic pilots.
This step strengthens interoperabilities, enhance joint readiness, and advance our shared defense goals.
Really, we have shared defense goals with Hamas, with Qatar. $40 billion into the universities to brainwash our children, and we have shared ideas of defense. Oh, yeah, because there are shared worldviews there, right? Sharia and our constitutional republic. There are shared values there, right? No.
Mr. Secretary, together we will continue to deepen this strategic partnership in pursuit of lasting peace and shared security. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we wish you that.
Sign now.
Sign and trade. How about that?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I would have thought Pete Hegseth would resign over something like that. Is he doing this of his own free will, or someone forced him to do this? Islam is going to play a far bigger role in the last days than most Bible scholars and prophecy teachers have ever dreamed to imagine. And I think one of the guys that knows this very well is Patrick Wood, because he's been tracking this technocracy coming out of the World Government Summit in the United Arab Emirates. And they want us all chipped, digital ID. And then you ask yourself why we have so many people being murdered so quickly during the tribulation period, and does Islam have any role to play in it? Of course, it's going to be a world religion, but it's an ecumenical, interfaith dialogue, world religion we already see taking shape, and America willingly surrendering to Islam. We've got a guy on the faith-based board who did, 20 years in jail for working with jihadis? Roar, isn't that his name? And yet he's on the faith-based task force. Joining me now is Dr. Andy Woods and Patrick Wood. Guys, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Pleasure.
Good to be here.
I'm going to have Hadia on the program tonight, and along with others, to respond to this, because they've been texting. She's been texting with me along with others today. And I said, it is things like this that caused me to realize again and again, the only thing that ultimately matters is the teaching of the Bible, the strengthening of the saints, evangelism. If you think Donald Trump's going to save the country, whoever thinks that, they're clearly not paying attention. Donald has chosen the way of pragmatism that we have warned about. Donald has chosen the way, I believe, of money. He's interested in his legacy, and it's not going to be a good one. It's going to be a George W. legacy. You just keep watching. He has chosen a way that is not pro-America and not America first. And anyone that thinks that Donald Trump is going to make America great again is wrong. And it should cause us as Christians and conservatives to use this as a reality moment to say, this is why we have to stay balanced. Yes, we talk about the issues of the day. We talk about law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, these things. But at the end of the day, we have to stay focused on what is our mission and calling as Christians, which is the Great Commission, making disciples and evangelism. Would you agree, Patrick Wood?
I certainly do. I do. I've been preaching this for a long time. At this point, there's no stopping this thing right now. And we can watch the parade go by, and we can tell people what's going on. We can warn them. But, it's kind of depressing on one hand, but on the other hand, we have the hope that we have in Christ. And he's going to settle all the scores one day. It's going to be a glorious thing.
It is. Can you believe this is happening with Qatar? I mean, if someone had told you 6 months ago, 9 months ago, a year ago, that this would be going on, would you have even believed it under a Trump administration? Qatar? The funders of Hamas? Patrick?
You wouldn't think, but remember, Qatar is where the concept of a sovereign wealth fund was started many years ago. And now President Trump is wanting to establish a sovereign wealth fund for America as well. And I did a paper, I think you might remember it. It's called The Great Islamic Finance Convergence. This was September 8, 2025. I thought that article would raise a firestorm. How Islamic finance Sharia finance has infiltrated into the Western banking system. I have the receipts on it, and I laid it out very clearly. Crickets. I couldn't believe it. People are so asleep right now on this threat. This is almost as bad as technocracy itself. But you know, all of the Arabs from wherever, they want to be the leaders on this concept of fintech. That's financial technology. Things like cryptocurrencies and so on. And this is evident in their practices. They're basically taking over this whole space at this point, and nobody's paying attention. You're right. What are we doing trading anything with Qatar? These are not our friends. Not at all.
And this is what President Trump himself had to say about Qatar in 2017.
The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. And in the wake of that conference, nations came together and spoke to me about confronting Qatar over its behavior. So we had a decision to make. Do we take the easy road, or do we finally take a hard but necessary action? We have to stop the funding of terrorism. I decided, along with Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, our great generals and military people, the time had come to call on Qatar to end its funding. They have to end that funding.
Well, they haven't. Dr. Woods, they haven't. What happened between 2017 and 2025 for Donald Trump?
Well, I think you're dealing with somebody in Trump that's an art of the deal kind of guy. I mean, that's what his book is entitled, right? The Art of the Deal. And I think he looks at it like a hotel real estate investment. It's kind of this mindset that if they're making money and we're making money, then, you know, we're all big one happy family. And I'm not sure what he understands about the ideology of Islam. You know, I think he thinks it's just a religion. But as we all know, people that watch your show know that Islam is a political conquest ideology that looks at things through a completely different prism than Western business people look at it through. And they are allowed to do something called hudna, I think is how you pronounce that, where it's kind of like one step backward, two steps forward. In other words, you're allowed to have these reprieves in terms of your expansionism with the goal of moving more aggressively into the future. And every time the West caves, it doesn't pacify Islam. I mean, this ideology cannot be pacified. Nope. It cannot be placated. It wettens, so we put it that way, emboldens the appetite. And I'm not sure what the Trump administration knows or doesn't know about that ideology.
Yeah, well, Sandy just emailed in and said, please keep reporting the truth. Keep telling the truth. Thank you, Sandy. That's what we're here to do. We'll do more on the other side.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
Welcome back. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. All right, guys, let's talk a little bit about the peace deal. It doesn't look like all of the aspects of it have even been agreed to by Hamas. We are anticipating and praying that many of the hostages that are alive will be released over the weekend or Monday. We're just tracking it. It's very fluid. What are your thoughts on this deal, Andy?
Well, obviously anybody is in favor of releasing the hostages. I mean, praise God for that. And we don't even know if they're going to be released at this point, because that's step 2, step 3, and all these other things. But, here's the part of it that the mainstream media, so to speak, will never tell you is this kind of peace deal, so-called. What you're doing is you're putting a Band-Aid over a wound without dealing with the symptom of the problem. The symptom of the problem is what I was trying to explain on the other side of the break. It's an underlying world conquest ideology where people are raised from infancy to hate the nation of Israel, hate the Jews. And by the way, they're the little Satan. The West is the great Satan. And you cannot erase a value system like this that goes back to the 7th century AD, with the stroke of a pen. And so it really is the height of naivety to suggest that eternal peace and all of these exaggerated terms that are being used, is being brought in. Bible prophecy is right on track. The world will come against Israel, Zechariah 12, Zechariah 14, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The ideology is in place for that global animosity. And signing a peace treaty is not going to change the hearts of people. And so, if anything, this is dealing with the symptom of a problem. It's not dealing with the root of the problem. The only thing that's going to deal with the root of the problem is what Patrick said a little earlier: the Prince of Peace, the King of Kings, and the Lord of Lords in his kingdom. Until that comes, buckle your seatbelt. We're in for some turbulent times.
Indeed, we are. And now we've got an executive order last week to protect Qatar if they're attacked. Whew. I mean, this is really getting off the reservation. Patrick, I want to have you tell our audience, and Dr. Woods and I'll ask questions, respond to it. You have a brand new article out called the Sandbox Act. You say it gives teeth to the AI action plan. This is over at technocracy.news. Can you tell us about this?
Indeed. This act was introduced by Ted Cruz, and basically it's going to give teeth to the AI action plan that was released on, I believe it was July 3rd, something like that, on the whitehouse.gov website, by the way. This AI action plan had 3 pillars on it. In fact, we talked about it along the way, I think, just examining what it is. This AI action plan was written by nonetheless by Michael Kratsius and David Sachs, and David Sachs. These are the arch technocrats of the Trump administration. So when they crafted this action plan, it was just a plan at that point. But this is where it starts. So now Ted Cruz has crafted legislation to put this into effect. And one of the pillars of it, of course, is to lay off AI with regulations. They want to basically deregulate the whole industry if they could. And this is part of the concept of the Sandbox Act. So this has just been introduced. My guess is it's going to sail through both houses of Congress. May take 2 or 3 months to do it, but I can see the thing being passed easily with this administration.
And you're saying that it unleashes, they say it unleashes American innovation and long-term growth, protects free speech, but you're not buying it.
Not at all. Not at all. This has nothing to do with free speech. This is interesting that these people now can say, well, we're going to curtail the government from, messing with free speech. Well, they did that during COVID. We know that. That's all on the table. But at this point, the government is immaterial at this point. These technocrats have taken over all of Washington, D.C. So the censorship now is coming from the tech sector itself, and it does not need the government at this point. So when Cruz talks about free speech, that's a great platitude, but no cigar. I'm sorry. We see all of these things happening today with AI being used to moderate speech. You see that in on X. You see it on YouTube still, Google, etc. So this same old, but the government's not going to be part of it at this point.
We had an article out over at Martin Armstrong's website earlier in the week. I don't know if you saw it, guys, but it was talking about the mark of the beast. I can find it real quick. And it was talking about Bill Gates and his little tattoo, and increasingly it could go on your hand. Here we go. Electronic tattoo, the forewarned mark of the beast, but it can't go on your forehead. Bill Gates believes the electronic tattoos will soon replace smartphone technology. This is not a dystopian fable, but an active plan set in motion by Chaotic Moon. That's the name of a company that was acquired by Accenture. Nano capacitors that conduct electricity will be integrated into the body through these electronic or biometric tattoos and are activated by simple vital signs. Marketing focuses on convenience and futuristic technology. Smartwatches would be obsolete as the tattoo tracks body temperature, steps, heart rate, potential health issues, and more. Body gestures wouldn't have the power to unlock doors. Body gestures would have the power to unlock doors, turn on lights, and connect to the internet. One could browse the web without the need for screens or batteries. Annual visits to the doctor would be obsolete as the device would notify the doctor if there was something wrong. The marking can also be used for wireless identification. Border security is the new guise for collecting biometric, and governments are actively researching tattoo recognition technology to track citizens. The Washington Post covered the topic back in 2016. And it goes on from there. This is interesting because they're talking about it creating some kind of human circuit board. And Bill Gates began supporting the project with his endless funds. Quote, smartphones have been our digital lifelines, but their reign is nearing its end. Electronic tattoos are the next leap in personal tech, end quote. That's what Gates declared. The devices are intended to replace the current financial system. Credit and debit cards will be stored on the device. I'm not one to preach the concept of revelations, but there is a clear connection to the ancient prophecy. And Martin Armstrong cites Revelation chapter 13. Dr. Woods, interesting because you, Dr. Jimmy D. Young, and many others have said from the original language, it is a mark on the skin, not per se in the skin. Dr. Woods?
Yeah, it's the Greek preposition epi, which means upon. And if that passage was talking about something underneath, it would use the preposition uper, where we get the word hypodermic, beneath the skin. And so that article, we actually reported on that in our ministry a couple of weeks ago. And what he says in that article, Bill Gates, is these smartphones, they're on their way out. This is going to be the new deal. It's going to access everything. You read all the stuff, unlock the doors, access your money. And we're living in a time period where history has caught up to what the Bible indicates would be existent on the earth at the end of the age. And I've got all of these older commentaries on my shelf of the book of Revelation, and they could not make heads nor tails of Revelation 13, 16 through 17. Most of them, what they end up doing is they say that text couldn't mean what it says. And so they end up saying it's hyperbole or they symbolize it away. But what we're discovering with all of these things, I mean, right down to the horses coming from Russia. I don't know if you saw the headline this week about that's what Putin is actually doing in his activities in Ukraine, right down to Babylon, right down to what you're talking about here. I mean, these things are going to come to pass, I suspect, far more literally than most people of the past could envision. And this article concerning Bill Gates fits right into that theme.
You want to comment on that, Patrick? Or I go back to the peace deal?
Nope, that's spot on. This circuit, by the way, it's not a tattoo in the sense that you use ink to put it on, but it looks like it's kind of transparent. I've seen one of these things. It's absolutely amazing, at least in concept. So it looked like one of those see-through Band-Aids that you get in the store, and you see some of it just as a shine on your skin, but then you see the circuits etched into this, and the device can draw power from your body. Doesn't need any outside rechargeable battery, etc. It'll be able to or get energy from your body to send signals and receive signals. Some people are saying also that something like this could interact with your glasses. For instance, if you had smart glasses, that may be the only thing you need at that point, because you see these smart glasses transmitting images. You can see them, but nobody else can see them. And it can do anything like project a movie before you, look at your web browser, et cetera. And it could all be self-contained at that point. So talk about a brave new world. It's incredible.
There's an article by a Joshua Hoffman. I want to go back to the Gaza plan. Trump's peace plan for Gaza will fail miserably. That's his headline. Subtitle, much of the West still clings to the fantasy that Islamists can be coaxed into moderation, but Islamists only see such gestures as weakness to be exploited. I want to get into this when we come back from the break. It fits with what Hadia was saying last week at our Thursday night banquet, that in her job with the government, working with the State Department, the FBI, and other intelligence groups, they were trying to tell everybody about her little group that 9/11 was coming and how it happened. And they thought they were conspiratorial. They thought they were crazy. They referred to them as a cult. Then 9/11 happened. And they're like, hey, can you guys come into our offices here and talk to us, please? And so they started sending her all over the world, one country after another, to try to build moderate Muslim networks from which they could gain information, but also to try to bring radicals into that moderate network and unradicalize them, or to get young people into the moderate so they wouldn't become radicalized. She detailed all the countries she went to personally, with tons of money. And every one of them failed because of the Arab money that was awash. Well, folks, the Arab money is awash in D.C., and America is collapsing from within on the other side.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. All right, welcome back to Worldview Radio. Our website, worldviewradio.com. Now, I want to go to this.
WorldviewHealthcare.com.
I want to go to that. I don't know what that was. I want to go to this article here. The author writes, Qatar's role is even darker than many in the West admit. Its money is not only keeping Hamas alive in Gaza, but also buying silence and sympathy in the very countries that claim to oppose terrorism. Qatari cash flows into think tanks, universities, lobbying firms, and even the pockets of politicians across the West. It funds endowed chairs on Middle East studies that miraculously frame Islamists as misunderstood actors and Israel as the root of all problems. It bankrolls lobbyists who whisper in congressional offices about the need for dialogue with Hamas or balance in dealing with Iran. Western leaders who should know better find themselves compromised, unwilling to speak too loudly against Doha because Qatari investments prop up their institutions or bankroll their campaigns. This is not diplomacy. It is infiltration disguised as lobbying. Qatar has mastered the art of buying respectability abroad while underwriting extremism at home. Iran, for its part, continues to funnel resources to Islamist proxies across the region, from Hezbollah to the Houthis. Believe that either regime would act in good faith to dismantle Hamas is a delusion. Some in the West are essentially asking arsonists to run the fire department. Nor can the Palestinian Authority be trusted to govern Gaza. Its leader, Mahmoud Abbas, is 88 years old and presides over a kleptocracy so discredited that many Palestinians favor Hamas, even as the latter habitually kills, tortures, and jails its own people. If the Palestinian Authority were parachuted into Gaza, Hamas would not vanish. Hamas has a long history of killing rival Palestinian leaders, and those it does not kill, it buys. Bribes, intimidation, and assassinations would ensure that the Palestinian Authority either collaborates with Hamas or collapses under its weight. To imagine the Palestinian Authority as a viable post-Hamas governing authority is to ignore both its weakness and Hamas's ruthlessness. This is the crux of the problem. Whether it is Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, or any other faction dressed up as a governing authority, the ideology driving them remains the same. It's not a question of personalities or party names, but of an Islamist worldview that cannot coexist with the West. Dr. Woods, you've read this article. You were the one that brought it to my attention. This thing is going to fail. This, as the headline says, this is going to fail. And I got people on tonight like Annie Cyrus and Hadia and others saying the same thing. This is going to fail because you can't negotiate with Hamas. They're not people that keep their word. They're buying time and deceiving us. Dr. Woods?
Yeah, I did read that article, and it was part of our podcast that got dropped this morning. That was my opening thing there from that article, trying to respond to the Trump peace plan. But the line I think that's really interesting that you covered there deals with the funding from Qatar in the United States into our universities, giving Trump an airplane, all these kinds of things. And once you understand this, suddenly Trump's actions start to be understandable, logical from a certain standpoint, because here's a guy that went to the United Nations General Assembly in September and condemned, rightly so, by the way, a two-state solution and a Palestinian state. And then he turned right around. It was like a 180. I think we covered it on your broadcast, Brandon, where he said he's not going to allow the Israelis to annex the West Bank, as if you can annex something you already own. And then he turned around and, condemned, I think this was a little earlier, the Israelis for taking out the terrorists there in Qatar. So why does he do this? Why is he trying to balance everything? I mean, why does one statement go for Qatar, another statement go for Israel, and then you see kind of this reversal and balancing act? It's because of that line in that article. I mean, the Qatari money is flowing into the United States, and he's looking at this as kind of a business proposition. So he's trying to make everybody happy, trying to make them happy, trying to make the Israelis happy. And it's this foolish prism that he has where he's trying to apply this art of the deal mindset that he has. And he's very gifted with deals and real estate and hotels, and praise God, he's got that skill set. But he's naively, and this is what the article brings out, he's naively applying it to the Middle East, not understanding that Islam is a world conquest ideology that will tell you whatever they need to tell you as long as it's advancing their cause. And that's why we're in the situation we're in right now.
And then, of course, we go back to the Independent and many other articles. Qatar admits it unwillingly helped bail out Jared Kushner's skyscraper. Fifth Avenue building cost $1.8 billion. Brookfield, a global property investor in which Qatari government has placed investments, struck a deal last year that rescued the Kushner Company's 666 Fifth Avenue Tower in Manhattan from financial straits. And it goes on to talk about that in the money. And then you add other money that's come in there from Saudi Arabia with Kushner, according to numerous reports. I mean, the whole thing smells just like the same stuff we've seen decade after decade, Patrick, that people are compromised by money. The old saying, follow the money. The root of all evil is the love of money. It's not money, it's the love of money.
Yes.
Patrick?
Exactly. I'm really impressed that, remember after 9/11, the vision that I got off the TV wasn't necessarily of the planes hitting the towers. It was the videos that were displaying or showing all of the Arab world in the streets, cheering for what just happened. You can't find those videos anymore, but I remember them.
Yep.
It just this has been a mental image that I can't get rid of.
Oh, I remember it. I can back you up. I have that same thing. They were passing out candy in the streets. I remember it.
They were absolutely. They were off the wall, and there was nobody in their home at the cameras didn't go in the homes and see who it wasn't cheering, but they were all on the street. Masses of people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people dancing in the street at our downfall. Now, all of a sudden, our country has decided that it's better to link up with these people who were cheering back. This is only 25 years ago. You'd think there'd be a longer memory, but apparently not. Now, the whole country is turned against what used to be America, and they're cheering for these people who are cheering, on the other hand, to destroy us. This is so crazy.
It reminds me, I'm going to go back, Dr. Woods, to the book of Nahum, where the prophet shows up like 150 years after Jonah. He's not there to say repent. He's there to say you're going to be judged. Apparently, they didn't teach their children about the repentance that had happened 150 years later, and they fell away. And we see God using the Assyrians to judge them cruelly. I mean, it sounds like Islam when you look at how they tortured people and everything. But then eventually the Assyrians get judged. And I wonder if this isn't the pattern. God is using Islam to judge America. And then maybe God himself will judge Islam in Ezekiel 38:39. What are your thoughts?
Well, we know where the red-green axis is going to end. It's going to end on the mountains of Israel because Ezekiel 38 and 39 describes that. So God's enemies are going to meet a pernicious end. But like what you just said, many times in Scripture, before God brings the final curtain down on his enemies, he uses his enemies to discipline sometimes his own people. So as much as that scenario that you're describing is abhorrent to me, and I have a daughter and you have children, grandchildren, and I don't want to see that happen, my mind has to be open to that because that is a biblical pattern. I will say one thing about the United States. The Bible is pretty clear: to whom much is given, much is required. And there hasn't been a nation in the history of mankind, other than national Israel herself, that started with so much biblical truth and biblical revelation. And for whatever reason, we've just turned our back on the whole thing. And so I always have felt that if and when God brings America down, it'll be pretty severe, because we've had light that other cultures of the world haven't had, and we've still decided to turn a blind eye to it.
You mentioned an article. Here it is, the Telegraph. Russia trains soldiers to fight on horseback. This is fascinating. Tell me about this, Dr. Woods.
Well, it's one of a series of articles. The other two came out in February. And the world news, is reporting that here's Putin, and it gives all the military reasons. Horses can see better at night and all of these kinds of things. Why all of a sudden Putin is rolling out the Russian cavalry. And that article actually predicts that the Russian cavalry is coming back. And so this is interesting because Ezekiel 38 verse 4 predicts an attack by Russia into the land of Israel on horseback. We have been ridiculed from time immemorial by preterists, by the Gary DeMars and the R.C. Sproul's of the world that want you to believe that Ezekiel 38 already happened. And people have always made fun of us that how could you guys see this as a futuristic battle when it describes ancient weaponry like that? Well, guess what, folks? Give history enough time and it'll catch up to the scenario that the Bible anticipates. Suddenly the Russian army coming in on horseback doesn't seem that far-fetched.
And they're thinking that they can somehow counter Ukrainian drones and landmines and artillery strikes by being on horses. That's what the article says they're trying to do, huh?
That, and it says something else. They can fit minimum or at least 2 soldiers per horse. Now, that's very interesting because getting into China for a minute, I believe that the kings of the East, I think China is one of the players. This giant army coming from east of the Euphrates River into northern Israel on horseback. Revelation 9 and Revelation 16, putting those together, it talks about that. And people have said, oh, come on, there's not 200 million horses in the world. I've heard people make that kind of argument. And I'm thinking, well, have you factored this in, that there could be 2 riders per horse? So that makes a literal interpretation of Revelation 9 and Revelation 16 more credible. So I guess my point is this. Whether you're talking about the Bill Gates tattoo, whether you're talking about Babylon, whether you're talking about this issue, the whole biblical scenario is for the end times is more believable and it's more credible than it's ever been. And it's like God is allowing us to see this evidence, before the final curtain goes up and the final act takes place.
1-800-347-9829. Your thoughts, your comments, your questions, folks. Phone line's now open. Ask a quick question. We'll give a quick answer and roll through as many as we can. 1-800-347-9829. Again, 1-800-347-9829. If you missed yesterday's interview with Catherine Austin Fitts, part 1 is there at worldviewtube.com. And part 2 went right away into our vault. You can gain access to that and all the speakers from last weekend at worldviewtube.com/vault. worldviewtube.com/vault.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon Howse.
All right, welcome back. Let's go to the phone lines. 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Again, I hope you guys are marking your calendar now and asking for the time off or planning your trip for October 23 and 24. We're going to move our National Worldview Weekend to the real Bible Belt, the Midwest. And so hope you'll join us on Friday night, October 23rd, Saturday, October 24th. We have secured a contract with the Waukesha Expo Center and are already now booking speakers, and many of the names you will know, Dr. Erwin Lutzer and others. So again, mark your calendars now, if you will. Don't forget to stay tuned for Crosstalk coming up at the top of the hour with Jim Schneider on over 100 outlets nationwide. Crosstalk is America's original Christian talk program since the 1970s. You can also listen online at V as in Victor, VCY.org. Let's go to the phones. Wade calling from Minnesota, line 1. Hi, Wade. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, good afternoon. Tremendous respect for both your guests there. My question, have either one of them ever heard of the understanding of the mark of the beast referring to thoughts of and works of the Antichrist being done and not necessarily a literal tattoo or mark when exposition of that Scripture is pulled apart?
Dr. Woods?
Well, I've heard that. I'm not impressed by it because prophecies, when you look at how they're fulfilled, Micah 5:2, Jesus being born in Bethlehem, that was literal. And when you look at Revelation 13, verse 18, it says this, it talks about a man. The Greek word is anthropos. So the Antichrist is an actual human being. And so the right hand or the forehead in that same context, would not just be talking about thoughts generically, but physical parts of the body. So I don't think it's the right way to go to make it less than what it says.
Let's go to Lisa, line 2. Hi, Lisa from Delaware. Thanks for calling in.
Well, I thank you for your beautiful broadcasting network having the ability to have beautiful, positive outreach, conversations and lyrics with your beautiful songs that you play.
Thank you.
But focusing on the fact that we, as United States of America, shall represent the entire creation with God's grace. Well, thank you. As of April 29, 1607, from the 4 founding fathers and Reverend Robert C. Hunt, the United States of America became the strongest nation. Therefore, having the title, the catch-up nation, currently, we, as United States of America, shall step up to the plate and catch up all creation with God's grace. If we have God's grace on all creation, we will not have any malice, no ill will, no evil law, no harm bestowed upon anyone or anything. As appreciation of not only the 4 founding fathers and Reverend Robert T. Hunt on April 29, 1607, but appreciation of all lives matter, as well as having a heart and a soul for the ones that do not have a heart and a soul, would be an example of our artificial intelligence, robotics, computers, and electronics. So our electronics, our computers, our robotics, and our artificial intelligence may obtain a heart of divine tranquility.
Okay, I got to cut you off here. I got to keep. I'm not sure what was she trying to say, Dr. Woods? What do you think there?
Well, I'm going to send that over to Patrick because I didn't.
Well, he had to go. I'm trying to figure out. Well, she was talking faster than I do. I was trying to figure out where she was going with that, but I got so many calls lined up. But let's keep going.
Yeah.
Lori in Michigan, line 3. Hi, Lori. Thanks for calling in, Lori.
Hi. I really appreciate your program. I was just going to tell you that in 1990, I deployed on the first mission, basically, into Qatar, and they're quite a mixed bag. They'll kind of hang out with you, the Qataris, and they'll just act like they're one of Americans. And I asked one guy one day, I said, "Are you from New York?" And he said, "No, I'm Qatari." But they were educated, most of them, in the West, and a lot of these guys marry foreign. I got invited to the guy who ran all the electrical for Qatar, and I got to invite his house for dinner. His wife was British. This gives you an idea. They marry Americans and everything else. Well, it's a long story, but my unit got a call from some of those Qatari men, and they were trying to buy me using camels, trade me for camels, and they were asking my unit. My unit was laughing. They thought it was pretty funny, but they can really fool you and pull the wool over your eyes. But we already know Al Jazeera. We all know that, but they are very clever at fooling people. So I just thought I'd let you know the other side of the story. Plus, I also deployed back there in 2010, and I really had to. I helped my unit to protect themselves against the attacks of a possibility of attacks on us because they knew the threat there was pretty serious, and I used to have to get all this anti-war chemical gear and everything up for the big group that I was working for, along with many other things I did. But let me tell you, I've never seen so many Americans in my life as in Qatar. I mean, you looked on that runway, and I swear that almost every state had a group from that should have been in America, defending America over there. But I just thought I'd give you a little bit of a rundown of something that I've seen with my own eyes.
So you don't trust Qatar? You don't trust them, and you're not for them practicing and flying here in the U.S. out of Idaho?
No, I do, because you cannot be their religion. Plus, I heard some out of their own mouth talk about how they feel about women. Like I've heard some of their filthy, you can just tell. They were trying to be real nice to us because we were there to defend them. And so they tried to be different, but I could see something twisted in that mentality. Of course, they were Islamic. But yeah, they're really clever people, though. Let me tell you, and they are educated in the West, and they can speak perfect English in most cases, and they marry foreign wives, Western wives. Just want to let you know a little bit about it.
Oh, can I just ask you, how many camels did they offer for you, Lori?
No, I don't remember. All I know is they were laughing. The officers were laughing so hard. It was hilarious.
Wow. Lori, we always love it when you call in. Let's go to Dennis and wait a minute. Aaron in Wisconsin, line 1. Hi, Aaron.
Hi there. Hi, Brannon. You were reading that article about Qatar and their money and funding, and I wanted to share that with basically a MAGA group here in Wisconsin.
I am going to post it.
I really would like to share that with them.
Excellent. Give me 5 minutes to post it. It's called Trump's Peace Plan for Gaza Will Fail Miserably. Give me 5 minutes to post it at worldviewreport.com. I'll have it there for you at worldviewreport.com, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm sorry we didn't have time to get to Dennis in South Dakota, but there you go. Now, Dr. Woods, his website is andywoodsministries.org, andywoodsministries.org. And Dr. Woods, thank you for being with us today.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And folks, we'll be covering this tonight with Hadia, Annie, and many others. That's our job. We're not paid mouthpieces for the White House. We speak truth, and you'll find it here, as well as on Crosstalk coming up next at vcy.org. Take care. And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and Worldview Tube right here. So, Andy, it's amazing. More and more people now are starting to think that we have been betrayed. There's a lot of people on social media today, whether it's the executive order in Qatar, letting them train at the air base in Idaho, so many bringing Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg into the White House, $70 billion deal with Pfizer. We just keep going on and on. And people are saying he throws us a bone and then he does this, and throws us a bone and then does that. And many are saying, guys, we have been betrayed. What are your thoughts? In fact, Catherine Austin Fitch yesterday said he knows exactly what he's doing. This is why they let him get into office, to do exactly what he's doing now, that a lot of the country would have fought him on if it had been fought her on if it had been Kamala. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would say it's a way to bring the right in. I noticed with Starmer, with this digital ID stuff that he wants to do, his big push was we got to enforce our borders. Well, people on the right love border enforcement, so I guess we all better jump on board with digital ID, something that we wouldn't normally do if someone from the left, was promoting the idea. So I think it's the same kind of thing here. I believe that Satan always has a back door, and he'll use whoever happens to be in power to bring the next group in to fulfill his ultimate goal, which is the New World Order. And the kingdom of God is not being built now, contrary to what many teach. We are winning souls for the coming kingdom. Jesus is building the church. But the truth of the matter is the big kingdom that's being built right now, the next kingdom on the horizon before the second advent of Christ, is the kingdom of the Antichrist. And that kingdom is currently is under construction. The infrastructure is being put in. And the world is still the devil's world. And it doesn't matter if we've got a Republican or a liberal or a Democrat or whoever in there. Satan uses whoever he can to accomplish his ultimate goal, which is to roll the world back to what it was like under the Tower of Babel, where he rules through one man, and that man governs all of the known world, planet Earth, on behalf of the devil. And that's the direction humanity is inevitably moving in. And we better start looking at it that way, or else we're going to be lulled into false hope and a false sense of security.
What other big item are you watching prophecy-wise in your roundup this week?
Well, let's see. We've got the digital ID issue. I think one of the things that has struck me is this, I don't know what to call her. Her name's Delia. You may have seen her in Albania.
Yep.
And that's, of course, AI. So, boy, that jumped out to me because John in Revelation 13, verse 15, says, I looked and it looked like a talking statue, and it looked like it had breath, and it looked like it could coerce non-compliance and actually put people to death. It looked like an inanimate object that was talking. Now, John, of course, is not going to use the expression artificial intelligence because he's a first century man with a first century vocabulary. He says it looked like or as. And so that Delia in Albania, I guess it's a cabinet member or something, put in place to police corruption. She can't be bribed because she's a machine. Boy, that sure caused Revelation 13, verse 15 to jump out at me.
And, that fits with what Patrick Wood. Guys, can you send Hadia a link? She's asked me 5 times. Well, just text it to her in that group text, please. Patrick Wood and I said, at some point these judges may be replaced by AI because people are sick and tired of judges and politicians being bought off. We'll just let AI do it. That's not going to be the answer because they can program it to get what they want. But you can see where the world, and that's basically what Albania is doing. Albania appoints AI bot as minister to tackle corruption. And I think we talked about that, a few weeks ago on Worldview Report. But this is exactly before we saw that report. That's what Patrick Wood and I were talking about a month or two ago. That this is very in keeping with the idea of turning everything over to AI.
Yeah, it's the major theme of today, that the whole end time scenario, all of these issues we've addressed are very, very credible, and they're in play.
Yeah, indeed they are. All right, Dr. Woods, as always, we appreciate you. Patrick had to go early, but Dr. Woods stayed through the whole show. He had to go do another interview. AndyWoodsMinistries.org, AndyWoodsMinistries.org. And we carry his broadcast on Saturday and Sundays. Right, Logan? Okay, sounds good. All right, guys, don't miss tonight. We have Hadia, Andy Cyrus, and so many others joining us tonight. All right, guys, as always, thank you for your support, for being here with us. WorldviewFoundation.com, WorldviewFoundation.com. Now, I should be back Sunday night, Lesson 49, as I'm teaching through the book of Revelation, in Revelation chapter 21. There are only 22 chapters, so we're almost done. Then, Lord willing, I'll move on to Daniel. You can catch it all at Last Days. What is it, Logan? It's lastdaysstudy.com. Take care.
You're watching World.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation, having worked his way up from the enlisted